Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Sam. I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for 22 years. I'm a biblical study student. I'm a Bible teacher. I write. If you want to read my writings, go to samberg.org. Click on posts. You can see all my writings there. My training involves biblical studies, theology, biblical languages, things like that. Well, they did it. Got wind a couple days ago that ESV is going to be updating their translation once again. And this time, in a couple of their major moves that they're going to be doing and changes that they're making and the updates they're making to their translation, I actually love them. I actually agree with them in a big way. One of them has to do with something that I have talked about a lot on this channel through comments, all that kind of stuff. It has to do with the verse Genesis 3:16, and I think it's a great move, and I applaud them for it. So I'm going to take us to the website that they made and they put out a couple days ago, and we're going to walk through a couple of those changes, and then I'll talk to you on the back end about some of my thoughts on some of this stuff. ESV Bible translation update, February 11th, 2025. Just a couple days ago it came out. So Crossway here, and this is what it says. It says the oversight committee for the translation is a standing committee of the Crossway board of directors, and they're trying to figure out what to do. The stability and future of ESV. You can read all this. I'm going to read all this together. But I want you to see this here because they said that they want to keep have their commitment to being accurate. And right here it says, this is where I think it was funny. It said, it's been nearly 10 years since the last update in 2016. At the same time, we desire to be as faithful as possible to the inspired, valuable Word of God, while remaining open to considering changes that improve accuracy and clarity, taking into account new archaeological, linguistic, and textual discoveries, and maybe even some critical commentary on their past decision making. Anyway, two notable changes, and these are the two that I think are very fascinating, and ones that I would have said, yes, you should have made these changes. You shouldn't have made them before. It says one notable revision in this update involves Genesis 3:16 and 4:7. The committee changed the ESV 2016 translation of the Hebrew preposition el from contrary to back to the original 2001 translation for. This is one that I have been talking about for a long time. Genesis 3:16 is the curse where God says to Eve, your desire will be for. The Hebrew word there should be translated for your husband, but he will rule over you. There is this idea that she will desire her husband, but he will be in charge. Because of the fall, because of sin, he will now be ruling over here. Before, that wasn't supposed to be that way. Here's the issue. The issue is that they interpreted this with the word contrary, which looked like what they were allowing themselves to, or allowing their translation to have in it, was an interpretation based upon their theological lens. And a lot of people got really upset about this and were like, no, this is your complementarianism showing that you're saying, no, before the fall, before sin, that this was just the hierarchy the way it was supposed to be, that Adam was ruling you even before that, and now you're contrary to him. You were always the other way around. So this is their explanation, though. I don't love their explanation, but this, at least they're making this change, which I think is a good one. Their explanation is, which provides a more natural translation in continuity with the historic stream of formal equivalent English Bible translations, like basically saying everybody else is doing it, so I guess we're going to go back to doing it too, which preserves the range of interpretive options in the Hebrew. Do you know what that means, right? That means that we're going back this way because we want you to be able to interpret this, not us interpret it for you. Right? The interpretive options can now be seen in the alternative renderings provided in the footnotes, or to, or toward, or against. The conjunction but has been changed to and in Genesis 3:16 and 4:7, so as not to impose a contrast that is not explicit in the Hebrew text. As general editor for the ESV Bible, J.I. Packer often reminded the committee, we respect readers when we pass along to them the job of interpretive work, not going beyond what the linguistic details require and not foreclosing the interpretive options. Okay, so that is huge. That is a huge change that they're making for Genesis 3:16 and 4:7, because before they were trying to interpret the text for us, not allowing us to read it and interpret it for ourselves. I think that's a great change. I think it's a needed change for the ESV, and I'm proud of them for doing it. John 1:18, we have to talk about this one on the other hand, because this one is a fascinating change that it looks like they are trying to be a little more in line with what the Greek actually says, and looking to be a little more in line with what the other translations say. Now, this is a difficult one to render. I'll just tell you this, and it's very different rendering from what the King James and New King James would have in it. Okay, so John 1:18, in their translation, they used to have the only God in there. Now he says it's been updated to God the only Son, with God corresponding to Theos and only Son monogenes, as in John 1:14. This translation incorporates the concept of descent, which is an implication of that in its context, and maintains concordance with the other occurrences of monogenes in the New Testament. The idea of sonship is evoked by monogenes in the context of father in John 1:18 and 1:14, rendering only son for monogenes in several ancient translations of the New Testament for Luke 7:12, 8:42, and Hebrews 11:17. It indicates the propriety of a similar rendering in the verses referring to the Son of God. The footnote for John 1:18 has also been revised to reflect more clearly the manuscript variations, including alternative renderings such as the only God who, the only Son, allowing readers to engage with the full textual tradition. I believe the King James and the New King James have the only begotten God, is what it says in there. So some people are going to want to argue over that. I don't think this is like a big, controversial change. I do like the fact that it's a little more word for word. It can feel a little clunky reading God the only Son, but I think they're trying to provide clarity and probably trying to get a little closer to the actual Greek rendering there, being a formal equivalent versus a trying to reorder the words or take out words to make it feel less wooden, kind of a deal. It's probably will feel a little more like a New American Standard, that kind of a feel to it. But anyway, it's a good one. So I just wanted to show you these. Well, like I said, I really applaud the ESV on making these changes. Way to go. I think that's really going to bring some great clarity to people who are reading it, who maybe don't have access to the original languages, and give them an opportunity to read it and interpret it for themselves. I really love that, especially the Genesis 3:16 change that they're making. There's a bunch of other changes. I think they said there's like 60 plus changes that they're making. You can go on that website, click on it. There's a little PDF at the bottom. You can read through every single one of the changes that they're making. They're still continuing to stay with their more gendered kind of language, and that's their prerogative to do that. But like I said, I applaud the Genesis 3:16 one. I think that's a great change that they're making. I'd love to hear your comments about this. Did you like it? Do you like the changes they're making? Do you not? Whatever. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.